We're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it well done.
Hi, Chaz Kangas here for Speak Minneapolis on the eve of a very important weekend. I have a special guest today, the director of Prince Live at Glam Slam, which is included in Diamonds and Pearls, the recent re-release put out by the Prince estate that this weekend is up for a Grammy for Best Historical Album. And on top of being a classic album, finally getting to see this live Prince concert from his club in Glam Slam for the first time has been an absolutely wonderful treat. And we have the person who's behind the camera who allowed that to happen, the great Scott McCullough. Scott, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I am spectacular. So, as someone who is a longtime Prince fanatic, as many of us in Minnesota are, but specifically as someone who has written and looked extensively into Prince's film world, of course, there's Purple Rain, which just turned 40 this past year. And I've also spent a lot of time with Graffiti Bridge, which Prince's film from 1990 that he wrote and directed and edited. And what I have an appreciation about it is I think it's the closest that we ever got to seeing the world how Prince himself saw it, like presented on
Yeah.
screen.
And I,
And,
I was actually casting coordinator in that thing too. So I completely understand that entire project.
oh, wow. So, all right. So then with working Prince so intimately on something where he had such a close relationship to film and then making this concert film right afterwards for the filming at his club, Glam Slam. Did Prince have any particulars about, I know it came together last minute for shooting this concert, but anything that stood out about how he wanted to be presented on film and how he envisioned it
Well,
prior to
that's
shooting
the
it?
mystery with Prince. You just kind of have to read his mind. It's when I worked on Graffiti Bridge, I was, in the working with the extras, kind of like a second AD, making sure everyone was dressed right and I could find them and I could organize the whole thing. So I was around the world of Prince, although not directly working with him. So that particular interest and surprise and excitement was quelled a little bit when I was able to pick up a camera and start shooting with him. So it was really him seeing my work through a producer and wanting to. My first shooting with him was when I was doing a rehearsal for Diamonds and Pearls at his Paisley Park stage. So that raising that you would call it when you get there and you just sort of go, okay, I got the camera now. I'm working with you, and right away we sort of had this energy where I knew what to do with the songs. I knew the songs. I was a fan, but you can't really show that. So that'd be cool. And I had to, hit the marks. And I have a background in drumming and percussion, so I have an interesting active camera, which really was exciting because I was able to work with the music and work with him and be able to understand how he moves and understand his show. So it really was just sort of timing and making sure I was in the right place at the right time.
How hard was it to stay cool around Prince?
You get through it right away, and for me, I mean, other people could be different, but I was excited to work for him. That first time I was working with him, I was limited. I had one light in his big stage, but he had his show lights. And my at the time it was a Nagra recorder, which is a tape to tape, not digital at the time, and that broke. So they had to resync that later. I found that out, and then my light meter broke, so I didn't have. Excuse me, that didn't work as well. So I was kind of dealing with other stuff than dealing with Prince. I was like, okay, I got to make sure this works. And I was like, that night after that rehearsal, I couldn't sleep because I thought everything was. This is the first and last time I was working with him, but it worked out. So I'm happy that it turned out well. I haven't seen. I've only seen little bits of that rehearsal because there's so much we shot. 2 hours of the show. I only saw 5 minutes of it.
So how different was working with the Prince of Graffiti Bridge in your experience than working with the Prince of Live at Glam Slam?
Well, Graffiti Bridge was a movie, so they set this sort of fantasy world up. The sets were built, the lights were different. They used the computer controlled lighting. They create this sort of fantasy. Now, you had a script and you deal with the sort of supposed to be like a sequel to Purple Rain, obviously in a different phase, but I wasn't working directly with him. When he worked with Glam Slam and the concert, because I was working with him at that time on several different music videos at that point, and I've kind of proven my worthiness to him. It was literally last minute, and I knew Glam Slam because we shot there before, but I knew that it was dark, and I knew that I was limited with what I could do with the place itself. It was kind of an uncontrollable situation because your live show, I couldn't see the sound check, so I didn't know what the show was about. I had an idea, but I don't know what the lights are going to do. I don't know what the people are going to do, and I'm limited to two. I think I had 3 cameras, and we added 2 more last minute, and we just went for it. So it was like, I better have the shots right. I better put the cameras in the right places. I got a little tip that he was going to walk up on the bar and perform during a song. So I had that ready, and I knew I could shoot that. But one of the things I did was I just sort of had this attitude of like, let me just ask for forgiveness rather than for permission, because you're always dealing with the bodyguards and security. But they got to know me too. So I said, I didn't tell them I was going to go up on the bar with Prince. Once he got up, I got up on the bar too and stayed in the corner, but I was able to get, the best shot I could possibly get at that particular time. So it was just being ready and not messing up.
Right. You mentioned not being able to see the rehearsal, so I'm curious, were you given a set list or knowing what the order of the show is going to be? Wow.
No. One of the things was the first song was Thunder. And I would have seen the rehearsal or the sound check, and maybe he didn't do the sound check on a particular song, but the lighting was really from above and not anywhere else. So it was really dark, but you have what you have to work with. And so we got some great shots in there, but it eventually got better and better and better. And I don't know if you've seen the entire show. But it was one of the things where literally just sort of, we just went for it, and we staggered the cameras because you get a limit of 11 minutes per camera roll. We shot 16 millimeter. And so we staggered the camera roll, so we would never have a time where all the cameras were being reloaded. That takes a couple of minutes. And in the show, there's some long pauses of black where nothing's happening. Well, that's where they're changing the audio. It's a 24-track audio, which takes a bit of time. So I heard Prince was not happy with that, but you want to keep the show going, keep the momentum going. So, but that was what happened at the show, and the estate wanted to make sure that it was legitimate to what happened at that night.
Nice. So going back to that night, the concert is finished. It wraps. You mentioned the night before you were a bit nervous, unable to sleep. How was that first night's sleep once you know that you had it in the can and you had this thing perfectly captured?
Well, to clarify, the first night I worked with Prince was probably 6 months before.
Oh, okay.
So I worked on several projects. I worked on the home video for Get Off, probably DP'd a lot of the work, including Sexy MF and some music videos, some other bits and pieces of movie scenes. This concert came up, got the call probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon, getting all the gear there, and then he had to wait because he had to do a sound check. So we sat there, we heard something, but it was all shut off. We couldn't see anything. But when you're working with someone at that level, at the top of his game, one of the best in the world, adrenaline takes over. And so you just sort of, go at it and use your intuition. Luckily I have a great eye that I can pick shots and do things. And he trusted me to be up on stage with him 5 feet away, doing whatever. I knew the parameters, and I knew what not to do. You can't get in his face, and you can't do this, you can't do that. But it was never discussed. It was just sort of an interesting sort of connection we had to be able to, capture his moments of what he did on camera or what he did in the show, and try to be legitimate and authentic to the show. That was the most important to me. So yeah, adrenaline takes over. And in fact, when I found the footage, but they were doing a, where is the footage now? After Prince passed, it was trying to organize the vault, try to find what's what and what's where. So I was brought into, for my particular time period, what we did. And some of the stuff I forgot I shot, including this concert. And I told the people, I said, there's something here because I remember this now. I blacked it out, but I remember it now that it was a great concert. And I think nobody saw what Prince was like in a private nightclub setting unless you were there. There's some videos obviously that were taken, but the sound is amazing. With a 24 track recording at that time in a venue that was just packed with people, was, when you look at it, you couldn't probably get away with that these days.
Oh, yeah, for a number of reasons, from, the code to it, but also how these things spread, people getting through to there. It is the perfect level of Prince being, the intimacy as well as the larger than life Prince as he's always been, and what's so great and stands out about how it was captured.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Thank you.
yeah. So, you mentioned Prince's passing, and in the immediate days following that too, there was Prince, who largely during his life kept his work and his rare works off the internet. And then there was a large opening of the floodgates for a period of a few days where so many things that were either released officially or unofficially or bootlegged or that had never been released just all of a sudden all came out. So in the days following that, do you have any particular memories of seeing things that you had forgotten and not seen before? Or was it
Well,
just focused on just memories and mourning the man?
Well, that was it. It took a lot, just to, realize that happened. I mean, I never worked with anyone that was more health conscious and so buttoned up and all about work. And, the shock that I think everyone went through was quite substantial. So, yeah, of course, people have bootleg copies of things. It's always been the case. I actually got a few emails during years ago that, hey, do you have this footage? You have that footage? uh, you know, when you work with Prince, you really have to maintain that secrecy. And he is, one of these artists that you want to maintain that legacy for too. So yeah, you'd see things, and I was like, oh, I don't remember, and thank God, because it's like some of these concerts that are out there now that the estate approved to get out there. I mean, like some of these, the musicology tour, it's amazing. I'm a fan too, so it was great to see things come back and his resurgence. He deserves it.
And one of those videos that was around that time that I remember people seeing the high quality that was finally in circulation of it, one that I believe you directed, Gangsta Glam,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what was it like making that one? And then chronologically wise, so that was filmed prior to the Glam Slam concert?
That was prior. It's going back 30 years, of course. So I'm like, okay, what's where? And it did a lot of stuff. I worked for other people. Other directors of photography would come in, other directors would come in. I would shoot for them, I would DP for them, I would direct things, and I would go off and do some other stuff. So it was really, when he was in town not touring, he would shoot a lot of stuff. So Glam Slam concert was, I think, in January. So I think after the first tour rehearsal I did, we did a sound check for the Special Olympics, which also appears on the DVD. And that is an amazing sort of look at what he is like just getting ready for a show. I think that day or the next day, I went right out to Paisley. We shot, I think a few weeks after that. So it was like, we're going to do this sort of play day at Paisley and just sort of wing it and have fun. And it was really interesting because it wasn't really planned as what are we going to do. It was like, okay, we're going to hang out in Prince's office in his private quarters at Paisley. That's, you see him at this desk. We're going to be at his parking lot. We're going to be in the studio, of course. All these little things we sort of like, and at his home at Chanhassen. So at the pool where he's got the onesie, right? So it's like, walks out and suspenders and a speedo, and you go, okay, how am I going to make him look cool and not look silly? Roller skates and a bowler hat. But the strange thing is Prince pulls it off. I mean, he's him, and he knows how to just make it happen. And he's knows editing. He knows how to be a filmmaker too. So he turned to me and said, when we shot downtown at night. I'm like, it's night downtown. We're shooting film. And he said, don't worry about it. If it's not in focus, if it's not exposed right, we won't use it. He kind of let me do what I wanted to do. And I remember never having video assist. Whenever I shot, it was sort of trusted me. Like I did a section in Sexy MF where the girls, the bedroom scene, Prince in a bedroom scene, right? Surprise. But we literally had, I think, 1 or 2 takes, and we didn't have a video assist attached to that. It was just me, Prince, and the 2 girls, and we just shot. We obviously we lit it before he even got there, and I wasn't sure exactly what we were going to shoot. So being ready and being in the moment is the most important thing, and actually have some intuition about how to make it cool as much as you can with what you're given. Never given a script, never given treatments, just sort of understanding, you know.
Nice. So you mentioned how Prince knows film, and the time these were all shot was when Prince was really figuring out with the ever-changing music landscape and the evolution of new power generation. Did Prince ever cite any specific examples of any either music videos at the time or film at the time that he was going for with some of the shots, either in these projects or other ones?
Yeah, I working with him on Get Off the Home Video, and I was with him in his apartment, just me and him, and I was setting up a light, and he said, look, I want to explain that this, I can't remember exact words, but he said, we're going to do Get Off like Madonna did for some of her European releases, take one song and do it 4 or 5 different ways. And then I got it. I was like, oh, so it's going to be different mixes, different approaches. So you got Get Off the main video, which I was not a part of. I was there watching it, but I did a lot of the shooting for all the other ones. So Gangster Glam is Get Off, but it's done in a way where it's like sort of like loose and funky a version of that. And it was very cool to see how just the talent of him taking one song and making 5, 6 radically different songs from that. And you just you start respecting his ability to be able to take something that is, you know, most people would be fine with that one song, but then he wanted to make something more, and he wanted to showcase, you know, his ideas for the song. Who knows how many versions he has of that song, but privileged to be a part of, right? So, and that was the first time I was 91, 92, and he, you know, I was like, I wanted to hear the songs beforehand, and I was given a CD. That was the first time I ever seen that. So he was ahead of his time technology wise too.
Well, yeah, and then of course with the internet and everything following that, hey, you always
Oh
had
yeah.
been so ahead of the curve on there. So, now getting in or working with the estate and going through and finding this film, and then remembering this show, the Live at Glam Slam, and now with it, being up this weekend for a Grammy. And I'm curious, was there anything else that you maybe had in mind that you were hoping to find when you started going back through the vaults that you were happy, like really looking for that you
Well, yeah, it's a, you know, it's they had a film. I haven't seen a chem table in a while. It's a film editing table, not digital. It's all film. They put the film on the rolls and you watched it on the screen. So it was a while to see that. It was interesting. I did a lot of work with Carmen Electra. We did live shows in London, uh, 35 millimeter too. They look great, but this was my purpose there was to categorize what it was, when we did it, and where we did it. I had no idea what was gonna be done for a documentary. I heard there's a Netflix documentary, so it could have been just categorizing that so that the editors can kind of piece together stuff. But this concert sort of stuck. I remember the executive producer Rob Worm, and the actual producer of the film, Kathleen Scoville, saying, "Okay, this is yours. You do what you want. So what do you need?" So I need camera operators, and I need them in an hour. Get them here, and then we didn't go on stage, or he didn't go on stage until 11, I think, 10:30, 11. But just categorizing, going back in time, like I said, just finding these things. And like I told the people that were working, I said, this needs to come out. I don't know what you're working on right now. I'm there for a reason to help them organize. But I said, this is a standalone project. This should be put out. And I lobbied to make that happen. And hopefully they, obviously they took advance notice of that. And it took a while, of course, that was in 2018, 19. But I think when they started looking at it and they found all the film reels and they found the 24 track recordings, they realized they had something to go with. And I'm just honored that Sony and Warner Brothers and NPG decided to put it with this, this amazing deluxe set. I mean, it's just, I've got it too. And I'm like reading the book. I'm in the book. I've quoted, I've got interviews. It's like, it's really sort of a pat on the back. It's really makes me feel proud that I was part of it.
And you have a lot to be proud of. It looks fantastic. And as someone myself who has a number of Prince live performances, it's a very cool, very unique thing that I'm just so glad exists. And you did an amazing job with it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Scott McCullough, we will be pulling for you this weekend at the Grammys. With the
Well, I'm personally not up for the Grammy. It's the producers of the deluxe set. I am part of it. I am a contributor, and I'm there to support them.
I hear you, but it's Minnesota. We can claim it. You're up for it. You're up for it. It's a spotlight for it. You can put the Grammy on their thing. So, but yeah. So being a part of
Thank
this
you.
Grammy nominated for Best Historical Album, and thank you so much. And we really appreciate the time. And yeah, it is available now. And do you have any further things coming up that you are excited about that we'll have?
Yeah. We're currently. You can see this board right behind me. This is a scheduling board for a movie called Infernal. We're planning to shoot in Eastern Europe, and it's with producer Grayson Brooks. He's out here in LA. And we have another film. I have another film called Captain for Dark Mornings, which is the captain, the youngest captain in the military in Vietnam, discovered how to treat and diagnose post-traumatic stress disorder, which is currently being used today. So I'm trying to get that movie going too. So that's a big lift, but it's not so big when you think about what's going on in the world. I mean, people need to understand what's happening with post-traumatic stress. So I've got projects, films, I've got documentaries lining up. Obviously, I've always been doing commercials. Target is was the start of my commercial career. I worked with them. I worked with Valley Fair. I worked with Dayton Hudson. I worked with the lottery a lot. So when I moved on from Prince, I worked with a lot of local brands that were in Minnesota. So and I'm being from there. I miss working there, and the crews there are I miss them because they're at times better because they really do pay attention. So the crews and the creative world in Minneapolis, the ad agencies, the production company, we built up a really solid, deep crew and equipment level in Minneapolis so that we can still shoot stuff there. So I'm out in LA now. I go back and shoot every once in a while. That door is always open. I'd love to work there, and my family's there, so it's great to see them and do a little work too. So that's it's exciting to be able to go back and forth to different areas and do things.
Well, looking forward to having you back here when the time arrives then too. So
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, Scott. This has been fantastic, and we will keep our eyes open for those projects. And of course, the Diamonds and Pearls Grammy nominated version is available now everywhere. Thanks again, Scott.
Thank you.
We're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it well done.